everybody, I'm Taylor and I am here today with fruit-infused exotics. Today we're going to be making a strawberry cake with a strawberry buttercream frosting. So we're gonna go ahead and start it out. I went ahead and set my oven to 350 degrees. We're gonna go ahead and mix some of our dry ingredients first in this bowl, set them aside, and then we'll continue on with some of our wet ingredients. So we're gonna go ahead and add in our flour. We already have it pre-measured out here, all-purpose flour. We're also gonna go ahead and add in our baking powder and our salt. So we'll lightly whisk this. Again, we don't need to make sure it's super mixed together, but we're just gonna mix it and set it aside. We will include this later into our wet ingredients. All right, so now we're gonna take our room temperature butter. We wanna make sure that this is room temperature. If it is still hard, it is not going to mix up right and it'll be chunky in your mix. So we're gonna go ahead and add that in there. We're gonna also go ahead and add our sugar into our bowl, and we're gonna mix this on medium speed until it's a nice and creamy texture. Add in our eggs. And again, I always like to mix all of my wet ingredients at room temperature. It allows everything to combine a little bit better than if they're still cold. We're also gonna go ahead and add in our vanilla extract. This later down the road is going to really combine well with that strawberry to give it a good pop of flavor. And again, we're gonna mix this until it's fully incorporated with that butter mixture. We wanna make sure it's a creamy texture. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and add in that flour mixture that we set aside earlier. And now we're gonna combine this all together on a medium speed. Start slow a little bit at first to make sure that flour doesn't come up in your face. And we'll slowly add speed as it starts to incorporate completely. And while that's mixing in there, we're gonna go ahead and add our milk into the mixture. And you'll notice that starts to create it into a cake batter texture. All right, now we're gonna take our fruit-infused exotic strawberry syrup, and we're slowly gonna incorporate it in here. We're gonna add about 1/3 cup. If you like a little bit more of a pop of that strawberry flavor, I'd suggest adding a little bit more. And now that everything is fully incorporated, we're gonna add the batter evenly throughout our pans. Another reason why I really love working with the fruit-infused exotic syrups, the strawberries are locally sourced from California, and they are added into the syrup and make a fabulous pop of that strawberry flavor. And again, this is a flavoring that you can mix and incorporate with different flavors. So if you wanted to do a raspberry cake, follow these same steps, just add in a different flavor with the fruit-infused exotic line. All right, and once those are spread evenly in our pan, we're gonna go ahead and make sure that these set evenly. I always like to add a little bit of pop to the bottom to get all of the bubbles outside. We're gonna place these into the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes. Again, check them with a toothpick. Make sure when that toothpick comes out, it's nice and clean. If there's still wet batter on the bottom, check it again in another 5 minutes. While these go ahead and bake, we're gonna go ahead and work on our strawberry buttercream frosting. So first we're gonna go ahead and grab our butter. We're gonna go ahead and add this into our electric mixer. And we are going to go ahead and start the process of creaming this butter. Start it on low first, and then you're gonna slowly increase that speed over time. Takes about 3 to 4 minutes on this one. All right, after we have that butter creamed, we're gonna go ahead and add in our vanilla extract. And we'll just combine that for about 10 to 15 seconds. All right, once that's combined, we're gonna go ahead and open back up our electric mixer. And now for the fun part, we are going to add in all of our powdered sugar. We have all of the powdered sugar on, we're gonna go ahead and lock it in place. We're gonna add about half of our heavy whipping cream, and this allows it to fully incorporate with that powdered sugar. Once we have that added, we're gonna go ahead and cover it. And that powdered sugar does like to fly everywhere, so I either wrap the electric mixer in saran wrap or cover it with a towel. And after about 2 minutes, we're gonna go ahead and turn it off and see what it's looking like in here. So it is starting to incorporate, so we're gonna slowly go ahead and cover it back up. We might actually go ahead and add a little bit more of that heavy whipping cream. And that heavy whipping cream just allows it all to fully incorporate and become that creamy texture that we're shooting for with our buttercream. And after about 3 minutes, we're gonna go ahead and increase that speed so that it can fully incorporate. And now that all that powdered sugar is added in together, we can go ahead and uncover it. We're gonna go ahead and slowly turn that off. And now for the fun part. So we are gonna add our Real Strawberry Infused Exotic Syrup. And again, this adds that wonderful pop of flavor and also gives a great aroma to all of your buttercream frosting. And we're gonna slowly mix this all together until it's fully incorporated. If you have any extra food coloring set aside and you like a little bit deeper of a red, this is when you can also add that in there. I tend to love the natural pink color that this adds to it, so I don't like to add any in as of now. But this is when you can also incorporate any colored dyes into your frosting if you prefer. And we're gonna go ahead and slow it down and open it for just a bit. We're gonna grab our rubber spatula and we're gonna go ahead and push some of that buttercream down that's gathered on the sides. And this is a good time as well that if you feel like you maybe wanna add a little bit more of that strawberry Real syrup into the mix, we can go ahead and add it now. I love adding quite a bit of this in there. It really does create the best strawberry flavoring. And also, again, it gives the best smell. Okay, and now for my specialty. We are gonna decorate our cakes. So we have been letting our cakes freeze in the freezer for about 3 to 4 hours. We want them pretty solid. A lot of people always question, does that dry them out? No, it actually locks in a lot of that flavor. Also, decorating with our frozen sheets allows for all of our frosting to stay combined. If you start decorating your cakes when they start to crumble, it really makes it not as aesthetically pleasing. So we always like to make sure that our cakes are a little bit harder. Another trick of mine when I decorate my cakes, I always, before putting my cake board down on our turntable, I actually grab a little bit of tape and I go ahead and lock that cake board in place so that this doesn't slide all the way around. So to start off, we're gonna go ahead and add a little bit of our buttercream frosting to the bottom of our cake board. This allows for that initial layer of cake to not scoot around our plate. So we're gonna go ahead and add that around, spread it out evenly. And again, this is that buttercream that we created earlier. I can already smell some of that amazing strawberry flavoring. So we're gonna go ahead and take one of our cakes and add it on. I like to press it down so that we make sure we get it firmly down, otherwise it will slide around. And now we're gonna go ahead and grab some of our buttercream frosting. So we're gonna go ahead and add a scoop. And again, how much you add is really a personal preference. I'm somebody that really likes buttercream frosting, so I do tend to add quite a bit onto here, but it's really optional as to how much you want to add on it. And again, this is one of those frostings, and even the cake, you can do this with any flavoring. Blueberry, raspberry is another one of my personal favorites. So we're just gonna make sure that we add this all into here, make sure it's nice and an even coating. And an even better way to incorporate some of that additional flavor, stop here, and we're actually gonna go ahead and take this syrup again. This is that Real strawberry that we used earlier, and we're gonna go ahead and drizzle it in between our 2 layers. All right, and now that we've added that syrup to the top, we're gonna go ahead and grab our second cake sheet, and we're gonna go ahead and make sure that we get it on there evenly. And then we're gonna press down. That's just gonna go ahead and lock all of that syrup in the middle. All right, and now we're gonna go ahead and add our crumb coat, or our exterior layer with that buttercream. So 2 options here. You can either have it directly from your mixer, or you can go ahead and add it to your piping bag now. I find that I like to add it on the sides initially. Adding it to the sides on that bottom also allows for it to get stuck to the cake board even more, which allows it to not slide around. Yeah, so with our frosting spatula, again, we're just really incorporating it into our cake. This allows it not only to stick, obviously, to our cake board, but it's gonna allow an even texture for that frosting so that when we go to decorate our cakes, it's a nice, smooth, and even layer. This smells so good. Another option for adding your frosting to your cakes is to do it via piping bag. So I've already added it to some of my piping bags here, and we are just going to cut a large tip at the top of that piping bag, and we can allow it to coat our cakes this way. Often this is a way for me to apply a bigger cake a little bit quicker. Some people prefer it this way. It's kind of all just personal preference. This also allows for an even coat throughout. And again, after you've already added it with that piping bag, you're gonna wanna go back again with your spatula to make sure that you can evenly layer it throughout the cake. And again, we're just coating back around. It's a lot of repetition with these cakes, so you wanna make sure that you're obviously smoothing it out as much as you can, and then where you see some gaps or maybe some lighter texture, like here where you can see the cake peeking through, we're just gonna grab a little bit of extra buttercream from our bowl and add it right on there. I always do the sides of the cake first too. It's a little bit easier for me to work around, and again, it locks that cake board to the cake itself. Some people like to start from the top, but it's all a personal preference. So again, I'm gonna show you guys how to use the piping bag on the top. So we're gonna take the piping bag here, and creating small circles, we are just gonna spread this on the top. Grabbing that spatula again, and now we are just going to slowly incorporate it throughout the top of our cake. And when we do this, we wanna make sure that we're creating nice slow texture or slow movements with our spatula. Try to avoid hitting that cake itself, otherwise that crumb is gonna come up through the cake. Not necessarily a bad thing. I used to do that quite a bit when I first started baking cakes, but obviously, if you're trying to make it as perfect as possible and nice and pretty, you wanna make sure that you try and avoid hitting some of those cake crumbs. And again, this color is perfect for, let's say if you have a baby shower. It's also great if you wanted to add a little bit of extra flavoring in too. Like I said earlier, if you wanted to add a little bit more of that Real syrup, it'll get a little bit deeper of a pink. So again, now we're gonna go ahead and take our frosting scraper and we're gonna create an even texture on the sides of our cakes. Another trick with this, if you find that you get a lot of gaps here, you're gonna wanna heat your frosting scraper up a little bit under some hot water. It makes that buttercream warm up just a tiny bit and really creates that even texture along the cake. But as of now, we are good with making it nice and smooth. So again, gonna scrape that excess off, grab back our spatula, and this is a lot of that rinse and repeat method. So we're kind of repeating exactly what we did before until we get kind of that look that we're going for when it comes to this. So spreading that beautiful pink cake around here. And like I said, this is perfect for baby shower. If you do try it out with a different recipe, let's say for instance, that blue flavoring, it's great for, a little boy. You can do so many different colors without even having to add any dyes in. Okay, now that we have our even crumb coat on the top, we're gonna decorate it. So we're gonna grab our piping bag, and I've already went ahead and added our piping tip on here. There's plenty of different attachments that you can use. This one is just good for a strawberry cake and it allows us to get a pretty good even texture throughout. So we're just spreading that throughout. Again, this is all optional. If you are ready to go before you even add any frosting to the top, that is totally fine. And reminder with this too, if maybe cupcakes are a little bit less invasive, this exact same recipe works great for cupcakes. Gonna add a little bit more to the bottom. And again, just to top it off, taking that same buttercream frosting, we're gonna add a couple swirlies on here. Again, mess around with it. It also helps if you wanted to practice on a plate. So like I tell people, if you haven't piped with a lot of icings before, set a plate aside and practice on the plate to kind of figure out exactly what you want to do before you go onto the cake. And we're going to add these swirls, which is a perfect bed for our fresh cut strawberries on top. And now we're going to take our fresh cut strawberries to add a little bit more decor to the top. Again, play around with it. It doesn't have to be perfect. We are going to angle the cut side outwards. Pretty for presentation. Again, if you're bringing this to a baby shower, you're hosting any sort of event at your house, this is great for spring and summer. And like I said before, you can do this with any other fruit and any of those Real syrups you'd like. And voila, you have your strawberry cake with strawberry buttercream frosting. So again, my name is Taylor. Don't forget to subscribe below and thanks for watching.